What's up, crew? Not a very fun assignment here. You're to solve the equation. So rather than worry about how many answers you're trying to find, write what you have for x. Well, you don't have any powers, but you have an x and a square root. Just put square root x, and then we also have just a regular x outside. Okay? So remember, if I have a x and a square root, because that's a 2, we're using a second power. Okay? Now remember, you got to check outside. Do you have a number right in front here? Where my pen's at? Nope. Do you have any plus or minus behind here? Nope. So you just go to your second power right away. So that's a 2. Use a second power and second power that side. Now we all know that the sides with the square root and the second power cancel, giving me the expression 7x plus 15. But the problem is, these are a lot easier if I just have a number I can take to the second power and bada bing, bada boom. That's not the case here. We have an expression to the second power, and in that expression, we have an addition operator. And that's why you have a piece of scratch paper. Because to simplify that bad boy, I need to get a script piece of So to simplify that, go to your scratch paper. You need to write out x plus 1 times x plus 1. And remember, that's a two-step process. You did it in the standard earlier. Okay, if you want to put 1s, go for it. So I distribute 1x to 1x, 1x to the constant 1, 1 to the constant 1x, and 1 to the constant 1. Okay, that's 1x to the second. That's 1x, that's 1x, and that's 1. Then we go blank x second plus blank x plus blank. So x to the 1 has 1, x2 has 1, x, 1 plus 1 is 2, and then 1 right there. Okay, so we put that over here. So 1x second plus 2x plus 1. Okay. All right. How do I solve this mess? Well, you see, the problem is you got x second, and you've also got x. So you need your 0 so you can factor, okay? So x second, keep him put. Move this crap over here. So minus 7x, and you can subtract that from 2x. Minus 15, you can subtract that from positive 1. So now we have 0 on this side. And we have 1x second. Now if I have 2 and take away 7, I'm at negative 5. Just put minus, don't put plus negative. 1 minus 15 is negative 14, so minus 14. And we have a trinomial. We solve it through factoring. So I look for a GCF, and then I go to my trinomial T table. GCF is 1. Okay, they're all 1s here today. ABC. 1 times negative 14 is negative 14, so I would be searching for a difference that needs to equal 5, 5 being negative. Or 5's, remember 5's negative when you find the two numbers. 1 and 14, no. How about 2 and 7? That'll work. 5 is negative, so 7's negative, and we have a negative product with the difference, so the signs have to be the opposite. Now, given the fact that a is 1, x is second, we just need 2 parentheses. So xx plus 2 minus 7. And you're going to have 2 answers. That's quite apparent, okay, with the 2 factors, because there's a factor 1, a factor 2. So x plus 2 could equal 0, or there's the fact that x minus 7 could equal 0. So I subtract 2 from both sides, and that puts me at negative 2 there. Then I add 7 to both sides, and that puts us at 7 with my 2 solutions. So there's 2 different solutions. Okay, my next problem, I have x minus 10 equals the square root of 9x. So is x any powers? No, not really. It's under a root, though. And unfortunately for us, we got an x outside. Whenever that happens, that's usually not good. That means we're going to have to do quite a bit of work. So we need to get rid of this square root. And we get rid of that through a second power. Got anything right here? Nope, so we don't have to divide. Do you have a plus or minus? Nope. Go right to your second power. Okay, so we know the square root and the second power will cancel. Those are inverse operations, and I get 9x. Okay, but I have a whole expression over here I need to square. So I go to scratch paper. X minus 10 multiplied by x minus 10. Okay, so that's a two-step process. I distribute 1x to 1x and 1x to negative 10. Okay, and that takes care of him. Then negative 10 to 1x and negative 10 to negative 10. Okay, so that's 1x to the second. That would be negative 10 with x. That would be negative 10 with x. And here I'm just multiplying two constants, so it's 100 without x. Okay, so I have blank x squared plus blank x plus blank. So I have 1. I need to double that, negative 20. And then we have 100. Can't mess up any signs either or the whole problem's done for. Okay, so you get 1x second plus negative 20x plus 100. Okay, now we have x to the second. We've also got x, so we need to clear one side of our equation. Get the 9x out of there by subtracting. And I can subtract that from negative 20x. So I have 1x to the second. Now if I have negative 20 and take away 9, that puts me at negative 29. Put minus at that point, and then plus 100 equals 0. Because I'm setting this up to factor. I don't want to see any of that plus negative. I could do it here because I knew I was probably going to have to move that. Okay, 3 terms. So GCF and table. But the GCF's just 1, so I don't need to worry about it. Okay, 1 times 100 is 100. Now that's positive 100. So since it's positive, we're looking for a sum of 29. So 1 and 100, nope. 2 and 50, nope. 3 is a decimal. 100 divided by 4 is 25. Okay, that's dog's going to hunt. Okay, so 29 is negative, 25 is negative, and this is a sum, so the signs have to match. Okay. Now a is 1x to the power of 2. A is 1, so we just need 2 parentheses with x times x. Minus 4 minus 25. So it's quite apparent I have 2 factors containing the x variable, meaning there's 2 solutions. So x minus 4 could equal 0, or x minus 25 could equal 0. So I add 4 to both sides here, and I get 4 as a solution. I add 25 to both sides, and I get 25 as a solution. Okay, now to my next problem. Okay, so what do we have with x? Well, I have x and a square root. Okay, and I've also got regular x. So I know what to do with square roots. That's to take them to the second power. Okay, nothing here to divide by, thankfully. No plus or minus. They're like, well, what would you do in a problem like that if you did have some cry? Okay, we don't really come across that in Algebra 1. Mr. Larson has it in trig, though. Okay, so I can go right to my second power. So I will take both sides to the power of 2. Now, we know on this side we get the cancellation, 16 plus 225. Now, over here, I don't need my scratch paper. That just becomes x to the second, 1. All right, now you have x second, you have x. You got to move everything to one side. Don't move your x to the second, though. He's the lead dog. He needs to stay where he's at. So I subtract 16x. Now I have to subtract that behind 1x to the second because they're not like terms. Subtract 225, subtract 225. Okay, so I get 1x to the second power minus 16x minus 225 equals 0. And then it's 3-term factoring. Okay, so GCF and T. The GCF's just 1 though. So A, B, C. A times C, 1 times negative 225 gives me negative 225. Difference of 16. Now, to save you some hassle, I'm going to tell you what this one actually does. If you divide 225 by 9, you come up with 25. So that's a difference of 16. I just didn't want to waste more time in the video than I had to. So 16 being negative means 25 is negative, and this is a difference, so that'll be plus. And A is 1 with x to the second, so xx, and then plus 9 minus 25. Okay, in that part I come to the conclusion there are 2 factors, because either x plus 9 can equal 0, or x minus 25 is 0. Again, you move everything to one side because when you factor, you use the zero product property. Well, that don't work if you don't have 0. And you have to factor when you have x second and x. So subtract 9, you get negative 9. Add 25, you get positive 25. Nice. Okay, next problem. What's special? Well, x isn't really to a power, but one of the x's in a square root, one of them's not. Okay, so we got to do something about that x in a square root. We're going to use a second power. Before we do that, do we have anything here? Nope. Do we have anything outside? That's inside because it covers. Nope. Go to our second power. Okay, so the right side of the equation cancels, leaving me with 21x plus 1. Now, I'm going to need my scratch paper on the other side. I didn't on the last problem because I didn't have that stupid plus sign. Again, when you have a plus or minus, you're going to need the scratch paper. We have to write out x plus 5 multiplied by the same thing. Duplicate it. Okay, so 1 and 2. So 1x to 1x, 1x to 5. That's multiplication, it's distribution. 5 times 1x and 5 times 5. So that's 1x to the second, 5x, 5x, and 25. Okay, I do have some like terms I need to combine into my product. So 1, 10, and 25. Now, what a lot of people stupidly do is they'll try to T-chart this without getting rid of this. No. You have to have 0 on one side of the equation to do the factor. Okay? So, and you don't want to clear this side because that's where x to the second's at. So I subtract 21x. I can subtract that from 10x. I subtract 1, and I subtract 1. So I have 1x to the second. I'm going to turn this around. 10 take away 21 is negative 11x. And 5 take away 1 is 4. No, that's 25. That was 25 on my paper. 25 take away 1 is 24. Okay. Now this side's 0. It doesn't matter the order you write in equals. Okay. I know 0's over here, but I turn around so it looks like what I'm used to. Okay, so GCF and the T table. GCF's 1. Okay, 1 times 24 is 24 positive. That would be a sum of 11. And 1 and 24 would not be it. 2 and 12 would not be it. 3 and 8, you bet. 11's negative, making our 8 automatically negative, and we had a plus with a sum. That means they're the same sign. Now, a is 1x to the second power, meaning double, just 2. I don't think there's any on here where you have to make 4, okay? So at that point I realize, oh, there's 2 answers. So x minus 3 is 0, x minus 8 is 0. So plus 3, plus 3, plus 8, plus 8, that's 8, 3 and 8. Okay, these next two, you got x to a power? Yeah, I do. A second power with a square root over it. And you're like, can I just get rid of it there? No, because there's another number in there. And no, you can't put it as x plus 2, okay? Then you have an x with just plain x. Okay, again, with a square root, we know we're going to have to use a second power, so we better check, okay? X, no number in front to divide by, no plus or minus to undo after it, so right to the second power. Okay, these cancel, and that just gives me x to the power of 2 plus 4. Okay, now the other side again, there's that dang thing with the plus variable and a number and a plus minus, so we need to duplicate x plus 5 times x plus 5. It's actually a short way to figure that out. I'm not very good at teaching it though, so I'm just going with this way. So 1x times 1x, Mr. Larson's pretty good at teaching it. I'm not very good at it. Times 5. And then 5 times 5. Okay, 1x second, 5x, 5x, 25. 10 and 25. Okay, so we have 1x second plus 10x plus 25. Now, you got x seconds and x to the first. Now, you think you got to move everything to one side, but you got x to the second on both sides. And not only that, they're the same x to the second with the 1. So you can get rid of them right there. Now look what you have. You have 4 equals 10x plus 25. Now you can just get the x by itself. So I take away 25. Take away 25. Gives me negative 21 equals 10x. Then we divide by 10. And x is negative 2.1. Okay. All right. So there's just one answer. That's why I don't jump the gun and say there's 2. Okay, what do we have here? Well, we have x in a square root. There's no power, but there's 2 of them. I'm going to write kind of 2. Well, that's not a bad thing. So square roots, we got to do second power. Now check the outsides of the square roots for operations. Don't have it. Don't have a plus minus. Don't have it. Don't have a plus minus. Okay, now, when you do the second power, you actually get both sides to cancel. 2, 2, 2, 2. So it's 2x plus 5. And the other side's x plus 7. Now, here's what a lot of people do, like kind of in stupid. You have x. You don't have x second. So don't move everything to one side. You're wasting your time. Take one of the x's and subtract them. Keep the 7 put, okay? 1x plus 5 equals 7. Well, pretty sure I can solve that. That's 2. So you don't just go, when you have just x and no x second, no x to any other power, you don't move everything to one side. You combine the x's on one side and then let the rest take care of itself. Okay, next problem. We have the square root of 10x plus 9 equals x plus 3. So what do we have? Well, here's my first x. Not in a power, but it's in a square root. We want to put that. Here's x just roaming free, not to any power though. So I know what to do on a square root. A second power. Now before I do that, I got to check for multiplication in front. Don't have it. Check for addition, subtraction outside the root. That doesn't count. That's inside. Okay? Not happening. So I go right to my second power. So 2 and 2. This side cancels. This side does not because I don't have the square root. So back to the scratch paper I go. X plus 3 times x plus 3. Okay. So I distribute 1x to 1x and 1x to 3. Then 3 to 1x and 3 to 3. It's called the FOIL method. 1x second, 3x, 3x, and 9. Blank x squared plus blank x plus blank. So 1. 3 plus 3 is 6, and then 9. Okay, so I have 1x to the second plus 6x plus 9. Okay, so mark your x to the highest power, and then you got also x's. So now you have to move everything to one side. Now don't move that side because that's where your x is second. So you do not want your x second turning negative. And that's going to happen if you move a positive x second and there's no other where to put it. So subtract 10x, and that can go under 6x. Subtract 9. Well, 9 minus 9 is 0. Okay? So you just have 1x to the second minus 4x, and then 0. Well, you're going to factor, but there's only 2 terms this time, so I would look for GCF and DOPS. Okay? This one there's going to be a GCF because you got x on both terms here. Now the GCF out of these two is 1. That's true, but it's 1x. So 1x is getting kicked out. That becomes 1x minus 4. Now, it has everything a DOPS would need, but there's no even power, so it's not. So, this is F1, the GCF. That's F2. So either 1x could equal 0 or 1x minus 4 could be 0. Okay, so I get 0 for my first answer and 4 for my second. So when those constants drop out, then it becomes a GCF DOPS. GCF should be there, okay, then in that instance. Okay, and then finally, here's my first x. Anything special? Yeah, it's in a square root. There's another x in a square root, so I'm just going to put the fact I got 2 of them. That's actually a good thing. So we go second power. And there's nothing I would have to divide by in front or add or subtract, so I just go right to my second power. Now we get a cancellation on both sides. We get x plus 3 equals 4x minus 8. Okay. Well, you got x to the first and another x to the first. That's all you have. Get them together. You can subtract 1x or 4x. Keep the 3 where it's at. Okay. I don't need to get rid of the 3. So 3 equals 3 times x minus 8. Then I can just add 8, which gives me 11, equals 3x. So divide by 3. And 11 divided by 3 is, I think it's 3.6 repeating. You could also put 11.3.